Every single one of us, the devil inside, devil inside, devil inside. Every single one of us, the devil inside.
There's a good reason you will never hear a sermon about the devil, because it doesn't make any sense. Because the devil is not good news. A sermon is there to uplift, to educate, to be good for God's people. Now here's what you get because you asked for it. It's topical summer, so you were able to submit your topics that you wanted to hear about, and here comes the devil, because you wanted to hear about it. What's the good news around the topic of the devil? Doesn't sound like it, because the devil is used to scare people. Scare little children, scare folks on the edge of dying. The devil is after you. Everyone has their concept of a devil, so it's actually a good thing for us as a church to look at that as well. Because you got your thoughts and feelings and you've heard stuff. Education helps. And I will take a look at that today too. The Bible has some concepts of the devil. Most of our perceptions, though, are from the late Middle Ages. But yeah, I will look at two biblical roots of all of that. Satan answers, the concept of Satan answers some of our most important life's question. How come a good man suffers? That's the question of Job. He was the most God-fearing, most thrifty, the best person ever. And all of a sudden, he loses everything. That needs an explanation. The Hebrew Bible tells his story, and it starts out not with him, because it's not about his life, even though it's all about his life. The story starts out in heaven, where God and Satan play games. Hey, let me take control of that guy. I'll play with him now. Okay, but don't kill him. There is something wrong with God if a good man suffers. That's a question all of us have. People have always had that question. And the answer is pretty simple. No, our suffering does not come from God. Our suffering comes from the adversary. That is what the Hebrew word Satan means. An opposing force against the force of good that our God is. But we don't really know all of that, so it's not happening in our sight. It's happening up in heaven. They're playing games, and we're just subject to that. So the real problem is that of control. Ultimately, we don't control our own lives. Ultimately, we don't control the circumstances we live in, our fate. Satan is about things that are outside of our control. The loss of a job, health going south, all those things that sometimes just come from the outside and we cannot get a hold of, wrap our heads around. We need something to explain that. And that something, as handy as it has been, people have always called that other force. That is not us, that is not part of us, that is against us. That's a good story to be told, because we need some explanation back there. Second story that we heard from the book of Revelation called for a number. The number of a person that is 666. Now come those images. The personification of evil, like with horns and a bull's head and horse hooves. I don't know what your devil looks like. Well, Hebrew Gematria translates the number 666 into the Emperor Nero, who was famous for basically going after the Christians. And those stories that are told about the beast pretty much line up with what Nero did, and that was, yeah, you can't do business without having his mark on your hand, so you paid your taxes and you're a good emperor-fearing person. And he's going after you, and he's going to kill you. So the number 666 from the Hebrew letters really translate into that Roman emperor. Now the problem is, the revelation of John was written 30 years after Nero's death. That's why it's called the second beast in our story. And it's the Nero redivivus, that is, Nero is coming back. So those evil forces that your parents had, they're coming again after you. Every generation, that early church, us today, every generation has to fear the evil spirits of the past. They keep coming back. There was that evil emperor that killed all of our parents and their friends and our aunts and uncles, and he was after them, and he will be after us again. The beast is coming back. Mythological? Not really. Real? Yeah. Your past can haunt you. Your past can haunt you. That's what the number 666 stands for. That evil spirit of the past, that sin of the youth, as we call it, can come after you. Do you remember when you were half the age you are now? Were you an angel or closer to a devil? As a teen, those spirits of the past, they can come after you. Our presidential candidates feel that with the scrutiny of the campaign going after them. How long was Romney really at Bain Capital? What's up with Obama at Columbia University? Stories of old. They don't really matter for today's and the future presidency, but yes, you're digging up old stories, and you do that yourself about yourself. Who's the devil? And is there a purpose for talking about the devil? A professor of theology who remained in Germany during the Nazi period said to the famous theologian Karl Barth, "We've seen the devil face to face," referring to the Nazi regime. Barth puffed his pipe and said, "Well, he must have been scared then, the devil." Barth hit the nail on the head. You cannot blame evil on an entity or a person that you can look in the face. Evil is within ourselves. That we can learn about ourselves, that we need those stories, and that we find them mostly within ourselves. Amen.